Welcome to Woodward Wings. We had an unfortunate circumstance. The first 10 minutes of the episode got corrupted, so we will hit you with more Mitch Marner conversation in the next one. But let's give him a quick recap, Spenny.
This is what happens when I go to get a coffee and we let Flannel start the show. Blame Flannel.
All right, blame Flannel. But Mitch Marner coming to Detroit is a top 5 possibility. The insiders are saying it. We're hoping for it. We all want it.
Yeah.
And we will get you some more information on that in the next episode. But enjoy what we do have and enjoy your Saturday.
Need a superstar. Nobody on this team is a superstar. There's one sitting in his prime at 27. Pay him what he wants. Bring him to Detroit.
We know how good of a defensive defenseman he is, and you put him up there with Seider on that first pairing or wherever he shakes out in that top 4. That's a lot. That allows whoever he is with, whether it be Seider or whoever, to not have to overcompensate because they know they have a quality, I would say better than quality defenseman on the other side of them, so they don't have to overcompensate for him. They can focus on their goal, what they have to do, their reads, and that gets rid of some of those kind of mental mistakes that we were talking about Seider making and him needing to clean up. Is if you have Aaron Ekblad on the opposite side of you opposed to Ben Sherratt, you're not going to be worried about him as much, and you could focus on the things that you have to do. And you know, you got a friend that lived in the same place as Aaron Ekblad. That's cool. My friend looks like Aaron Ekblad, so how about that?
Hey, there we go. And that's all the more reason. But you guys nailed it. Big, tough, nasty. Hits, put you on your ass, block shots, has been a part of a lot of winning teams, that's for sure, including a Stanley Cup champion last year. Put him on your top 4, either pairing. I mean, it's the Red Wings defense last year. It's the Red Wings PK last year. Aaron Ekblad would make a seismic difference.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. And this is a guy, like you said, the blocks, the hits, he's going to immediately help the PK. And that is and the 5-on-5 scoring, and he's going to help your goalies. There's literally zero reason why you wouldn't go after Aaron Ekblad. He has had some injury concerns in the last couple of years, but one thing he has done, he's made it back for the playoffs every single time, and that matters.
He's a vet. He knows what he's doing, and yeah, he's going to play in the playoffs, and he's going to play well in the playoffs.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. So speaking of the Florida Panthers and their team, and then possibly losing some guys, their second line center, Sam Bennett, there's a talk around town that people are willing to pay him $10 million, and that I'm just not in the market for personally, and I want to hear what you guys think about that.
I was going to say, Sam Bennett is I don't even want to say excellent player. He's very, very good in his role as a second-line center, as somebody who is two-way, plays defense, scores at a 5-on-5 level pretty effectively, at least for his role. But that's where this thing called a salary cap comes in. $10 million a year? Absolutely not. Would I want him on this team? Sure. Do I think he'll price himself out or just return to Florida? Yes, I do.
Yeah, all right, I agree 100%. If you want to get him away from the Cats and the Rats, you're going to have to pay him more than he's worth. And Sam Bennett is a very good player. Again, going to be a pivotal role in probably back-to-back Stanley Cup champion teams. But and he's something that the Detroit Red Wings need. We talked about those playoff forwards. We talked about guys that fit that role, and Sam Bennett obviously fits that role. But if you want to get him away from Florida, where he's comfortable, where he loves it, where he's going to win multiple cups probably, you're going to have to overpay him. And if I'm overpaying somebody in free agency, it's fucking Mitch Marner. It's not Sam Bennett.
Well, yeah, and it's also the tax deal. Like, when you're dealing with guys coming from Florida, they can pay them less, and they will make more. And so you have to overpay him, and that's where I'd rather overpay Ekblad. Like, I think that he actually brings an element of leading this young core to a place where you want to see them, especially the Seider at Edmondson, where it just makes so much more sense to go after a top ND and overpay a top ND than a top end forward.
Absolutely.
Unless it's Mitch Marner.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I mean, overpaying Aaron Ekblad to me isn't my first choice, but I'd rather pay Ekblad than Sam Bennett. I agree with you on that.
So if we're ranking free agents by if you were willing to overpay them for their services, top 3, who would it be?
Marner, Ekblad, Bennett, probably, or Marner, Ekblad, Lindgren, probably.
I would go Marner, Ehlers, Lindgren.
I got the same as Spencer. I got Marner, Ekblad, and Lindgren. I think that those are the. I'd be very happy if.
I probably shouldn't, but I have a lot of faith in this next wave of Steve Yzerman prospects being playoff guys. Like I've talked about Kasper and Mazur and Nygaard a lot, and those guys being playoff bodies. And obviously they're all very young, but I think their game suits the playoffs so well. And if they can get a little bit of, getting their beak wet in the playoffs next year, then I think they're going to be very effective. So the power forward, I know the aggressive, the playoff forward is definitely a thing that people look at, but
MBN's coming back.
I love that kid, man. I think he's going to be very impressive when Red Wings fans see him play hockey. They're going to like him.
And I think that something that's gone over a lot of people's heads is the way that Steve Yzerman has built this team, especially with getting the skill guys in here first, because they take longer to develop.
Yep.
You're seeing Lucas Raymond's trajectory, and his next step is harder to take than even MBN adjusting to being an NHL hockey player. He's a bigger body. He leans more on his physicality. He doesn't lean on his skill. So he's going to have a quicker transition, like you saw Marco Kasper. Marco Kasper had one of the quickest transitions on a prospect for the Red Wings that we've seen in years. And I think that I agree with you. I think this next wave of prospects is going to come in. They're coming hot. They're going to come in affecting games and really helping this team win. It's just a matter of when that happens. And when that happens, that's when you truly can start capitalizing on this window.
Yep.
Yeah. I agree with the whole MBN and Marco Kasper and even Carter Mazur to some extent, although he's more of a
he's a grinder.
Yeah, he's a bottom six guy, being more of the wave of two-way forwards.
Yeah.
Well said. I really didn't have to add anything to that, but thank you.
All right, you said you got a question?
I do have a
Take it away.
question because we kind of talked about it on Heavyweights 5 to 7 Monday through Friday on the Woodward Sports Network. Make sure you check it out. Shout out. We were asking about untouchable players in Detroit, like guys that, because we were talking about the Pistons making a big trade, and so we were like, who on this team is untouchable? And it came to my realization that I don't think the Red Wings have an untouchable player. You look at Mo Seider, he's probably the closest to it. Maybe Lucas Raymond, if you want to put him in there. But I believe when you haven't made the playoffs in this long and this core is where it is, I don't think you have an untouchable player. You could say that you have prospects that you don't want to let go of, but if you're going after a superstar, you would let go of those guys. And that's the type of thing we were talking about. In a trade like that, is there anybody, say you're making a trade for Pasta? Is there a guy that you would say he's untouchable, you can't have him? As much as I love ASP, as much as I love all of those guys, I don't think there's an untouchable player or prospect on the Red Wings right now because you're so devoid of that superstar talent.
That's a great question. You know what? I'm going to call Mo Seider untouchable.
I'm not mad at that.
And
that
I
was
understand,
the only one that I was really like, maybe it's him.
Yeah, and I understand that maybe he hasn't developed into that Norris Trophy guy yet. And he hasn't, although it's not all his fault, but he's got some things to clean up. I don't know. You need him. I think that this defense depends so much on Mo Seider moving forward. And I understand that to get guys like Pasta, for example, they might demand Mo Seider. But at the end of the day, man, I just think that there's too much uncertainty with the D-core at every level if you just remove Mo Seider for it. I think that Raymond and Larkin, for example, are more replaceable for this team.
I agree. And again, this is just a hypothetical, just a little thought exercise, people. I didn't hear anything about Stevie going after Pasta as much as I would love David Pastrnak to be on this team.
I think that there's no forward that's untouchable. That's for sure.
Agreed.
I think there's no doubt about that, especially if you're making a move for Pasta, a 100-point guy, like every single year. There's not even a question. I think that Seider is definitely untouchable. I do agree with you. I think he's just too pivotal to the D-core. I think Edmondson is close to being untouchable at this point because, I mean, you're seeing how this, like, you're not going to just improve your 5-on-5 scoring and then take away from it defensively with a guy who is playing top 4 minutes for you. So I don't think he's untouchable. I do think he's untouchable, actually. I'm gonna switch up. Yeah, I think Edmondson's untouchable. I don't think that they would trade him. I think that they would rather trade ASP.
I agree with that.
And I don't think ASP is untouchable. I think that if you're talking about a trade for Pasta, I think that Raymond and ASP is a tough deal to not take seriously.
Yeah.
And I hate to admit it because those are two of my favorite players. But that hurt to say.
I know. It was kind of a sobering thought because that was when I thought about it. I was like, okay, we know who's untouchable for the Lions. We know the Tigers have some untouchable prospects. Obviously, Cade is probably the only untouchable guy for the Pistons. And when I went to the Red Wings, I was like, the only guy in my gut, my first thought is Sider. He's the only one that I was like, if anybody is untouchable on this team or in this organization outside of Steve Yzerman, is Mo Sider.
Yeah, and to be honest, I think it's pretty sobering. Although we've known this for pretty much the whole offseason that Red Wings organization does not have an untouchable forward.
No.
We can love what Lucas Raymond and Dylan Larkin have done and what they can be, but they are far from untouchable.
And Lucas Raymond, I mean, I feel like we know what Dylan Larkin is at this point.
Fair,
Obviously,
fair.
he's going to get better when the talent around him improves. We've seen him when he plays with better forwards. He brings his level up, and he's going to play higher. So if you get a Marner or if Raymond takes a step, Larkin's going to look better. But Lucas Raymond could make me shut up next year. If he goes out there and he has a complete year like he did in the first half of the season, he very well is an untouchable player. He would be around 100 points if he did that.
Yeah.
So
He was
that's
on
what
pace for 95.
and I know he's 23 and he was the highest scoring player in the NHL 23 years or younger, and he's still got time to grow for sure. But I'm just saying right now, that's how I look at it. And I hope Lucas Raymond goes and shuts me up next year.
Yeah, I don't think any of us want to imagine a world where Lucas Raymond isn't on this roster. No. But when it comes to adding a bona fide top 5 forward in the NHL, you got to.
Yeah.
You got to.
You're not going to get him for free.
No. So you got to think about it, and you got to take.
It's just a thought exercise.
It is. It's a very interesting thought exercise, and we're going to go through a few more scenarios by Max Boltman. Shout out. He made 3 scenarios. One is called filling the key needs. One is called keeping long-term flexibility, and the other one is the big fish. And you can assume what the big fish means. But filling the key needs, I actually don't mind this, and I think that there's a lot of nuance to this roster. He trades for Marchment from the Dallas Stars, who's a 6'5" forward who had 22 goals last season, to play with Dylan Larkin and Lucas Raymond. He brings back Kane to play with Kasper and DeBrincat. And then he adds Tenyev to be on that fourth line with Rasmussen and Mazur. And I like that, honestly. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, an asshole.
And then adds Ekblad on the D end. So if they were to do this, I think this does make them a playoff team. Yes. I think that this does add everything that you need. It helps your PK. It helps your defense. I do like this a lot. It's not sexy, but it gets the job done. This would be a Tigers offseason.
That would be a Tigers offseason. That would be bringing in a couple guys that, like he said, it fill the needs. It's bringing in a couple assholes.
He buys out Tarasenko.
Thank God. Bring in a couple of assholes that are going to do what you got to do to get into the playoffs and do the grimy work in the playoffs to win a couple games. So, yeah, I would be fine with. I would be a little disappointed, but I would be fine with that offseason. It would definitely, I think, put them in the playoffs.
I think I would come onto this show and to wake up Woodward and basically say, okay, I wouldn't be throwing a party, but I wouldn't mind it.
It would be a good offseason.
Absolutely.
I think a solid B plus.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, especially when you look at Ekblad as your defensive addition. When you add that, Marchment, Brandon Tanev, re-signed Patrick Kane at a cheap rate, this is definitely a team that I would have playoff expectations for.
Yeah, and I think that's fair. I think that this roster is deep enough where you're expecting them to do that. And we're gonna keep it pushing, and we're gonna go to the second one, keeping long-term flexibility. This one's a little more interesting and a little bit more, I'd probably give this one a C, but I'll stop with the foreplay and I'll tell you what he wants to do. He wants to bring in Chris Kreider to play on that first line with Larkin and Raymond. Patrick Kane, bring him back to play on that second line. Bring back Bergeron and Tarasenko to be your extra forwards, and then sign Dumoulin to be on your third pair with Gustafsson. Honestly, I hate this.
I would be extremely upset if that's how the offseason went. I've talked about it before. I don't think you make the playoffs.
Yeah, D-Mac just puked in the background.
With that third line, you're not making the playoffs, and you're definitely not winning any playoff games. And with Tarasenko and Bergeron on this team, those are not playoff guys. I'm sorry. I've talked to you. Cannot have Tarasenko, Kane, Bergeron, Raymond, and not Larkin so much, but Kane, Raymond, Tarasenko, Bergeron. You cannot have all of those guys in your forward mix and expect to win a playoff game.
Yeah, I completely agree. And your third line is Cobb, Comfer, and Danielson. That's just not good enough.
Yeah, I mean,
if somebody gets kicked out of the fucking face-offs, they'll be fine. That's about it.
And he also has conference center. I'd put Kopp.
I'd put Kopp at center too.
oh yeah, that's conference center instead of. I didn't even notice that until you guys brought that to my attention. But yeah, this doesn't move the needle at all. This is probably still not a playoff team.
I think that's a D-.
D-? Yeah. I don't think that team makes the playoffs.
Kreider is not a first-line wing even on this team. You could do better. Adding your only defensive addition being Dumoulin and having your Ben Sherratt on your first pairing and Evanson and Johansson on your second. That to me is...
I would be vehemently upset.
This would still be a bad PK, like one of the worst PKs in my opinion, if you bring it back just like this. Maybe the worst.
Yeah, I actually hate that. I don't.
Yeah, that's not it, Bax. Love you, brother.
Yeah, I love your content, but content is not it. I'd actually puke. But this one I wouldn't puke at. I actually love it a lot.
That looks pretty good from what I can see.
Yeah, it does. All right, so you bring in Mitch Marner at $13 million. I'd come in here blowing loads if he's $13 million straight up.
Definitely creaming my shorts.
Brings back Kane for your second line. Signs Nick Cousins, a depth forward who's honestly he's a piece of POS. Everyone hates that guy.
I love that.
That would be a great addition for your fourth line. Help Rasmussen and Mazur kind of get that grip.
Learn how to be an asshole. Yeah,
exactly. And then he trades for Nicholas Hagee from the Vegas Golden Knights, and he's just a blue line depth piece who's on the younger side. I think that is nice for the long-term future, but I think that's just kind of like that's nice, but
they had to do something at defense. That
gets Hull as your last defenseman on. If you have ASP on your roster, it means that he's not on your roster. So
yeah, obviously I love Mitch Marner, and I think that move would be great. And then you bring in a guy that teaches Rasmussen and Mazur how to be an asshole. That's an A for me.
Yeah, this is because of Mitch Marner and getting $13 million a year. Yes, I would absolutely do this. Kane would be a nice, cheap re-signing. Cousins with Rasmussen and Mazur. I echo that. That could be a bitch fourth line to play against. Don't like Comfer as a third line center, but that's nitpicking when it comes to the forwards. Obviously, if you pay that much to Mitch Marner, you're not going to be able to do a whole lot to augment your D-core. That will still be questionable, but this is where Mitch Marner's prowess on the PK will also be extremely, extremely valuable. Mm-hmm. Not quite as valuable as his 95 to 100 points, but that's where having that big two-way forward who's a superstar will, I think, cover up for some defensive warts.
Yeah, I think somewhere between scenario 3 and scenario 1 is where the offseason will land. I do think that if they don't get Marner, I do expect like these types of moves where you get Marchment and Tanev and really make sure that PK is enough to get you where you want to go. Mm-hmm. And then I think that they're going to be extremely aggressive to bring in a veteran defenseman into this D-core because they have to realize that Sherratt on your first pair is not getting it done.
Cannot have it. And I've said it multiple times. I think I've said it every show so far, and I'm going to say it every show until I see something happen. If you have Justin Hall on your starting roster next year, you are not serious about making the playoffs. He is probably the worst defenseman I've ever seen play hockey.
Yeah, and for the record, I don't think he's on any of these starters of the top.
Yeah, he's the scratch.
Yeah, not on the top 6.
I don't even want him. I don't even want him in Grand Rapids, honestly.
No, I agree.
Just get the stench out of the organization.
I agree with that 100%, and I think with these scenarios, we're pretty much in agreement. Not to sound like too much of an echo chamber, but I think these are very obvious. That the first one is a little Moneyball, not sexy, but will get the job done to some extent. The second scenario, nobody wants. And the third scenario, Mitch Marner, baby. Yep. That's pretty much how it goes, at least for me.
Well, let me even make scenario 1 better. Because you buy out Hull, that gives you $2 million more in cap space. And you now have $4.7 million in cap space. So go sign another D. That's better than Gustafsson.
Wow. Wow.
Oh, my God. Wow. All right, sorry.
No,
but yeah,
it's fine.
Yeah, I just think that there's a lot of better moves to do than just keeping all around for $3.4 million. I just like the buyout clauses for him and Tarasenko are just not anything major.
No, they're both sitting there.
Even if you buy both of them out, you're paying them $1 million this year, $1 million next year. The $2 million you have tied up for next year isn't gonna be make or break this roster.
Yeah. That'll just replace Abdulkader's salary. So
Yeah.
Did you say 4.7 million if you buy out Hull?
Yeah.
Cody Cece?
you have to do
2
that.
at 9?
You have to do that.
I mean, buy a Hall, Cody CC 2 at 9. I mean,
That is such an upgrade. It's not even funny.
please.
like, we're talking about adding another top 4 defenseman for the money that we just buy out Hall and have left if we do scenario 1. So I think if you do scenario 1, you got to go all in on scenario 1, and you got to make sure that you replace every stench of failure and undervalued or overvalued NHL players like the Halls, the Gustafsson. Get them all out of here. Tarasenko, get them all out of here. Replace them with guys like Marchment, Cece, and bring guys in that can help you win day in and day out. Not just sit there and be a scratch all year, and then when they play, cost you games.
Yeah, I think you need, like, I think you took a step back in your veteran play from, obviously, a big step back from going from Perron and Gostisbehere to Gustafsson and Tarasenko. So you need to take a step above Perron and Gostisbehere. You need guys better and more effective than those guys. You know, you can get anybody that'd be more effective than Tarasenko and Gustafsson, but where they were at with Perron and Gostisbehere, they were 1 point away from making the playoffs. So you get guys that are better than them, and you're in the playoffs. That's my big dumb idiot logic.
No, and that isn't big dumb idiot logic. I mean, it's things that you have to consider when the Red Wings.
I love David Perron. I'm just gonna say it. I love David Perron. I was mad we lost him.
He was fantastic for his role with the Detroit Red Wings. One of Steve Yzerman's good signings. But just to circle back just one more time, because we found a way that it would be realistic if you bought out Justin Holl. Just imagine this decor. First pairing, either Ekblad or Cece and Seider. Second pairing, Edvinsson and either Ekblad or Cece. Third pairing, Johansson, Sherratt. Guys, that's a good PK.
That's a good defense.
It's a good defense. Yeah,
That's
yeah.
probably,
Yeah.
That's an upper echelon.
That's upper
defense.
echelon. We're talking like top 12 of the league. At
Yes,
least.
I
Like,
would say so.
Like,
Top third of the league for sure.
yeah, you are like that's cooking. Like, you want to talk about cooking and actually putting some life in this roster.
That would be the best decor the Red Wings have had in fucking 15 years.
Straight up.
And even with like Marchment on the first line and Kane on the second, that's a lot of really good forwards in terms of their ability to just score. Larkin, DeBrincat, Marchment, Kane, Kasper's going to take a leap. Did I mention Raymond? I mean, I'm not saying it's a lead or anything. You don't have a star, but
I like Marchment to help out Larkin and Raymond a lot too. I think that's
Fair.
a really nice fit.
Yeah.
I think that's exactly what they tried to do with Soderblom last year, but he just wasn't ready to take on that role.
Yeah, dude,
But
get a big, no offense to Marchman, get a big dumb idiot to stand in front of the fucking net and screw and hit
protect
people.
Raymond and Larkin,
yeah,
yeah.
and if somebody cross checks Larkin in the back of the neck, he's gonna rip their fucking head off. Like I would love that.
All
Or
right.
I would take Mitch Marner.
yeah, sure. Yeah.
Well, what if I told you you could have both?
I would love that.
Because realistically, you can buy people out and create that salary to sign Ekblad. If Marner's $13 million, let's start with that. So
Yeah.
People aren't flipping out. If Marner's 13 and Ekblad 7.75, that's our whole cap right there. But you buy out Gustafsson, Hull, and Tarasenko. That creates, I think, 5 to 7 million in cap space.
Yeah.
And right there, you trade for Marchment, Marner, Ekblad.
And then you bring up the kid with Lombardi or whoever that you want out of those kids to fill that forward spot. Yeah, yes.
Or instead of Marchment, you go with Cece. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, whatever way you want it, you can do it. Like, there is so much flexibility for the Red Wings this offseason, and this is the offseason they got to go for.
I will stick with your scenario because I like that one more than just fine. Dare I say that team makes a little noise in the playoffs. Maybe
would.
wins the series, gives a second-round opponent some hell.
Especially with that decor.
Yeah.
I would not want to be playing that decor. That decor would be hell.
Oh my! Don't make me go too. I'm not going to go too far.
Yeah,
I'm not going to go too
believe in
far.
it. I don't want to get my hopes up too much.
I was about to use a C word that ends with enders, but I'm not going to do that.
Hey.
People might like.
Hey,
know.
if they did that, I think you can say that.
Okay,
Because
okay.
I think adding Mitch Marner would put you close to that, and then if you
Add
add
Ekblad on top of that.
Ekblad and another forward, yeah. And you get rid of all the dead weight.
Yeah, and Are you talking a contender to win the series or contender to win the cup?
He's talking about cup.
I was talking about. That's why I stopped myself short. To where I'm like, I don't.
I think they're a contender to win a couple playoff series.
Sure.
I think that they're gonna end up being done in by the fact that Mrazek's their goalie.
Yep.
But I think that you can survive a round or two with Mrazek as your goalie.
Yeah.
So I think that this would set them up to come close to making the playoffs. Or they would make the playoffs, come close to winning a round or two, and then seeing that, all right, let's make a move for a goalie. Let's finish this off. Let's make a move for the goalie.
Yeah. I'll also complete rewind. Augustine's untouchable too.
Oh yeah.
Trey Augustine's untouchable. That's my bad. As a Spartan dog, I'm ashamed.
That's fair. Yeah, that's fair. I don't know though. If you can trade for, depends on their age, but if you can trade for a young goalie that's actually already established, like I give up Augustine. Like in Dreamland,
I'd give up Kosa first.
And well, yeah, I'd obviously give up Kosa first, but in Dreamland,
he's 6'5".
In Dreamland, let's say, and I just know Andre's age off the top of my head. That's why it's 24 or 25. If Andre came available and I could trade Augustine and ASP for him, I would do it in a heartbeat.
Wow, both of them.
Yeah,
I was gonna say, Spenny, I don't think Augustine's untouchable. I think could be pivotal. He could be the guy, but untouchable is a very big word, like a very strong statement about what you think his future is.
Untouchable, just because he goes to Michigan State. No, I'm just kidding.
That's we all have our biases. And Spenny, I'm not mad at you for that opinion. That's why it made me pause for a second. But I would probably say no to untouchability. Pause.
Fair, yeah.
well,
That's not a word.
Untouchability, it is now.
yep.
Nothing's a word until you say it.
Absolutely.
Hey, that's language for you.
It's
but
a bar.
That's the episode for us today. This has been Woodward Wings. I'm Justin Satawa. That is Spenmo Rax and Flannel Sam. We appreciate you spending your Saturdays with us. We enjoy it. Hit that like button. Subscribe if you haven't. Every Saturday, 10 a.m., we record one of these, so make sure you tune in. We'll catch you in the next one. Peace.
Peace.
Have you ever seen...